So once the family was over here, they were safe from all respects and for all reasons. My father lived in South El Paso for a few months because shortly thereafter the family moved to North El Paso Street, which was close to downtown El Paso, but it wasn't as long a street as it is now. That was the beginning of Sunset Heights. Sunset Heights was a residential area which became the prime area to live in El Paso. After a few years on North El Paso, where I was born in 1920, they moved to Prospect Street, further in to Sunset Heights. And there is my only recollection of what my childhood was, at 631 Prospect, on the corner of Los Angeles and Prospect. From there, I went into the service, and I'm here now, but not any longer in Sunset Heights. The family grew little by little. My father inherited quite a bit from his father. His father died in 1914 from a broken heart because he couldn't go back to Mexico, so I heard. But anyway, during the time that he came over here, since he spoke English but very poorly, he never had a job over here. And in 1927, I believe, he was running out of money and out of things to sell. He had inherited a real nice piece of land, which he sold little by little to what is now rich people in Juarez. If he'd have kept that land, I think he would have been in the dough. But he didn't, because he wanted to live here, and the only way to live here was to spend his inheritance for the good of his family. All of our children, except one, were either born in the United States or were naturalized citizens. My older brothers, Oscar and Manuel, became United States citizens. And by the way, let me tell you, Manuel was the only male member of the family that did not go into the war. But to tell you the truth, he's the one that wanted most to go help, because he had been a young man when he came across that river, and he knew what it meant to help. But he had fallen off a horse when young, and his left arm could not be straightened out. He had a bend in it, and it was permanent. And so he could not pass the physical to go into the service. But he became a Texas, they called it Texas State Guard or something like that. to replace the National Guard of Texas, which was called into the service. And he very gratefully served in that. My dad, in 1927 or 26 or 27, opened up a gas station in Fabens. The gas station was on next to the property that my grandfather had owned there. And my grandmother and uncles decided to either sell it cheap or give it to him, but they arranged for him to build and operate a gas station next to their property, which was very prominent in the city of Fabens, Texas. Manuel grew up in Fabens. Oscar grew up in El Paso, but he worked the valley as a cotton buyer. Manuel took over the gas station when my father could no longer run it. My brother Alfredo worked for American Furniture Company until he, in 1941, or maybe 40, went into the Army when President Roosevelt started to build up our defense. So Manuel, it turned out that he did not join. Besides Oscar, who became an infantryman, and Alfredo, who became a warrant officer in the Air Force, or in the Air Corps at that time, and he joined about a year and a half before the war started. Next was yours truly. I was going to be drafted, so I beat him to it and took a test equivalent to knowledge received in 2 years of college. And I luckily passed it. Therefore, I was able to go into air crew training. And so that I went to pilot school and became an officer and a pilot. My brothers left were Joe and Raul. And as soon as they left school, they joined the Air Corps and were studying to be air crew radio operators. And that's where they were when the war ended. They were about to be shipped to Japan to fly in B-29s as radio operators. I think this might answer some of your questions. And I can't say that everything that I've said can be verified. It couldn't. But by my father's actions throughout his life, his respect, and I'll say love of the United States while he still was a citizen of Mexico, tells me that he was more than grateful to that consul that brought him over. It kept his family alive. It kept him alive. And who knows, there might have been contributory to my grandfather being kept alive. And here I could say both of my grandfathers. My grandfather, who was a farmer near Guadalupe, where my mother was born and raised. He also was a political, political leader of their community. And so Villa, that's the first thing he did was capture those people and try to prove to the rest of the citizens that it was those people that was getting them in trouble by taking their money and not giving it back, which is ludicrous. But my father showed his gratitude by his actions with his family, by his actions as a Mexican citizen living in this country. So therefore, I think that what I've told you, I can verify through that media that he was so grateful for his family's existence that he wanted to make sure that the United States won that war. And I can add one thing about my maternal grandfather. He had been the mayor, or whatever they call him, in Guadalupe. And he knew that he was in trouble when Villa took Chihuahua. So he figured if he now goes into Chihuahua and nobody knows about it, they're not going to look for him there. And so he dressed as a woman, and by horse carriage, he went to Chihuahua dressed as a woman and therefore evaded his capture.